So can I cuss? Hey guys, it's John here in the studio on this beautifully rainy and foggy morning, Saturday morning. Loving my coffee this morning as I come in here. One of the things that's been happening, I find it really interesting, is people come on to my private sessions, and in the middle of the session, sometimes they'll say, "Can I cuss?" Can I cuss? Well, first of all, I appreciate when someone is respectful enough to anybody to not cuss until they find that it's okay for the person. I don't think that words themselves are harmful. I think intentions are harmful. Shakespeare said, "Words without thoughts never to heaven go." That's, your prayers. But words without thoughts can be very harmful if you're unaware of the person that you're talking to, how they take the word. So it's your words without thinking first can be very hurtful if somebody else's interpretation of the word is something different. But when you deliver that word with intention, something harmful, then you have this a whole other aspect of this concept of cussing, right? When I was a very young man, I knew a man named Atlas, and we were boys at the time. And Atlas was a young black man, and he had some his family had some poverty stuff going on, and we were not in any way, shape, or form wealthy. We were right at the borderline ourselves, but he used to walk to me and he'd say, "You crazy ass white boy." And he'd joke around, and I'd turn around and say, "You dumbass N-word." But Atlas and I liked each other. There was no intention behind those words. I remember one night running into Atlas, and he was very angry. And he's like, just upset. I said, "Atlas, what's wrong?" He says, "I got to do a fight tonight. I don't like fighting." I said, "Oh my, what happened?" He says, "The man called me an N-word." I said, "Well, Atlas, I say that every day to you. I call you that every day." He says, "Yeah, but John, he meant it." And that's just it, the intention behind the words without thoughts never to heaven go. Words without thoughts, without intention behind the words or the thing. I don't care if someone cusses in front of me, as long as they're not cussing at me or saying things just for shock value to grab attention. If it's just the way you speak and it's not about the shock value, which 9 times out of 10, people are doing the shock value for either comedic or harmful reasons. And so you have to understand why you're using the word, right? I'll tell you something else, that when you don't cuss, because there were times in my life I didn't cuss, and I cuss now, not as often as I used to in my youth. And then there was a time for many years I just didn't cuss at all. And I remember I was working at the Renaissance Festival in Maryland, and overheard a conversation between our stage manager man named Ray and somebody else who was there, and they were talking about. And Ray says, "I don't think he cusses. I've never heard him cuss." And what was interesting about it was the conversation went on because he had more respect for me because I didn't. And so I often wonder if the use of that kind of language is just really kind of lazy English. It's kind of like lazily, using things for impact because your actual words aren't impactful. I often wonder that. And don't get me wrong, I cuss sometimes. I probably cuss every day, right? But usually it's when something is going, awkwardly, or something is going, seemingly tough. There have been times I've done private sessions where I get off and I cuss, not because of the person, because I didn't feel like I had impact. Some people will come on private sessions and they'll just be so locked into their own belief system. They're not willing to hear anything else. And sometimes it's you can see what their blockage is, but sometimes they just aren't willing to let go of those personal blockages, those beliefs in lacking. And so sometimes I get off the session and I cuss because I don't feel like I could have. I don't feel like I helped them as much as I could have. And that to me is that's the goal of what I do. It's to empower people. And there are times when it's just not possible because everyone's on their own personal spiritual journey, and sometimes they're just not going to go there, and that's okay. And that's their journey. But I sometimes feel like I wasn't impactful in that moment. So, but do I cuss? Sometimes yes. Do I try not to cuss in front of people? Absolutely. I try not to cuss in front of people. My sister probably hears me cuss more than anybody else in the world, and it's usually because I'm joking around or playing around. But when it comes down to for the sake of cussing in general, it's not something that I tend to do. And I had a really interesting, beautiful moment with my son recently. He's in his 20s now. And, most parents will have it when they have a child. They'll kind of think of them as their child their entire life. There comes a point where you have to start creating equality between you and your adult child. And there was one moment recently where my son cussed in front of me, and it was almost as if he was seeing what would happen. And I just laughed. And then it kind of deflated the whole meaning of cussing at that point. And we just kind of laughed it off. But it also gave us a moment of realizing that we're just equals. We're just people going through life, having that experience. And so that moment of cussing was a beautiful statement of equality. So, do I cuss? Sure. Do I try not to do it in front of others? Absolutely, because I don't want to offend them, because I don't know what their belief about the word is. And do I get offended when someone cusses at me? If they're cussing at me, yes. If they're cussing in front of me, I usually just read the intention of what they're saying at the time. Are they being funny? Are they being... there's oftentimes I'll say, like my grandmother used to say, F you, but I wouldn't say F, of course. And that's just a funny joke. The thought of a grandmother saying that was just funny, right? What's funny is usually when I say that joke, somebody will say, I love your grandma. So that's my thought on this. I hope you guys are having a great Saturday morning, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.